we're only really just starting to understand the extent of the death and the damage caused by Hurricane Helene since it made landfall in Florida 4 days ago and then carved a path of destruction across multiple states. Forecast Operations Section Chief Zack Taylor from the US National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration joins us now from Maryland. A very good day to you. Can you first of all give us an idea about the strength of the winds, how much rainfall Helene brought over those days of just absolute damage?
Yeah, good morning, Nate. Certainly. So Hurricane Helene was a powerful Category 4 hurricane that hit the Florida Panhandle midweek last week, and then it went very quickly into much of the southeastern United States and brought a large swath of damaging impacts, including both wind, but also particularly heavy rainfall that extend well inland across much of the southeastern United States. And unfortunately, that led to some devastating and very catastrophic flash and urban flooding across a large portion of the southeastern United States.
What sort of amounts of rain are we talking?
Yeah, so a large area of rainfall over the 3 to 4 days was between 6 and 12 inches of rain. But within portions of western North Carolina and eastern Tennessee, and generally the southern Appalachians, there were amounts, localized amounts that were up to 20, as high as 30 inches of rainfall. And for that part of the country, that is extremely unusual and a record for that region. And unfortunately, that's what caused those devastating impacts.
Yeah, 30 inches of rain, I think. Just doing some quick maths, I think that's pushing well over 700 millimetres in Australian terms. That's an incredible amount. And the winds, because I know there was a lot of damage associated and death associated with trees falling. How strong were those winds?
Yeah, so when Hurricane Helene made landfall in Florida, there were some observed wind gusts well in excess of 100 miles per hour along the Florida Panhandle, as well as even further inland. So the thing about Helene, it was that it was a fast mover. So some of those really strong hurricane force winds were felt well inland into portions of Georgia and even into some of the mountain areas of upstate South Carolina and western North Carolina. So it was a pretty powerful Category 4 storm when it hit Florida, and then also had some devastating rainfall impacts well inland as well.
Yeah, the pictures we're showing at the same time, they tell volumes about just the absolute devastation brought by this storm. The remnants of Helene still bothering parts of the states. Whereabouts is it now, and what sort of weather is it bringing?
Yeah, so the remnant low with Helene is still drifting across portions of the central Appalachians. So that's like West Virginia, Maryland, and it's bringing some localized heavy rainfall, but certainly nothing that we experienced late last week when the storm was much more powerful and organized. That system, the remnants of the Helene, are going to continue to drift eastward over the Mid-Atlantic over the next day or so, and then eventually it'll move offshore the East Coast. But certainly the impacts this week are not as extreme, but we're still dealing with some bouts of heavy rainfall.
Yeah. Zack, how does this compare to other hurricanes that the US has had to deal with?
Yeah, certainly, when all is said and done and the record books are written, this will be certainly one of the more damaging and costly systems that we've had in recent memory. And certainly when it comes to the loss of life, which is very devastating, unfortunately, this will rank as pretty high as well in terms of the inland flooding impacts. Far-reaching impacts overall, and certainly one that I think a lot of people will be dealing with in recovery for a very long time.
We've only got a couple of minutes left, but I've been keeping my eye, of course, on the ocean off Florida. Looks like there are several lows out there. Are there any that are causing any concern at this stage?
Yeah, so, we're in the peak of hurricane season in the Western Atlantic, so we have to kind of keep ahead in terms of looking at the forecast. There is a system that we're watching in the Western Caribbean and the lower Gulf of Mexico. Still some uncertainties on how that might form and organize and any associated impacts to land. At this point, it looks like that might be until this weekend or even to early next week. We're tracking at a kind of a low probability of formation at this point, but certainly something worth monitoring over the rest of this week and seeing if any other systems may form.
Yeah, because at this stage, right, it doesn't matter even if it's a very low-level storm, then it's only going to cause more trouble for people trying to effect rescues and assess damage on the ground.
Certainly, yeah. I think everyone's very sensitive to any additional heavy rain or tropical activity. So certainly, I think through the rest of this week, we'll continue to monitoring the forecast, and hopefully, if that system will trend away from land if it does develop.
Yeah, we'll be keeping an eye on it from here in Australia. Zack, I know it's been a really tough time for you and your forecasters too. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us on News Breakfast.
Thank you.